Hey, if you're watching this video, you're either a business owner or somebody with a business plan that is looking to secure 0% interest business credit. My name is Marcus Beck, and in this video, I'm going to try to do two things. The first thing is I'm going to help you understand a little bit more about the American banking system so that even if you don't choose to work with us, at least you have something to take away for your time. And number two, I'm going to try to surprisingly sell you on our program. So let's at least, make do with the first promise. This funding program is built for three buckets of people: real business owners, startup business owners, and real estate investors. Let's, break it down one on one. Business owners with an LLC over 2 years can stack both the business credit cards at 0% interest, but also the business line of credits that looks like a checking account that you can draw money from at any time that start around at prime. So you can get up to 2, 3, 4 million. It really just depends on your revenue on the business line of credit side, and the business credit card side, the 0% interest that caps out at around 300 grand, really depending on where you are. Number two, startup business owners. You are not excluded from this program. If and as long as you have the credit profile to back up your lending history, even without revenue, even without any documents, you're actually able to secure up to $150,000 at 0% interest on the business without affecting the personal. And number three, real estate investors. Why are you still using hard money? Why are you still using your own cash? Obviously, if you are much bigger and you're doing syndications or multifamily, bigger multifamily, this might not make sense for you. But most real estate investors, you know, if you aren't using business credit to float more cash, take on more projects, if you aren't using business credit to pay for your labor, your materials, maybe sometimes even down payments, you're missing out. And so, look, my name again is Marcus Beck, and I started business just shy of 4 years ago. I started off as an underwriter at a personal credit consulting firm where we help business owners stack personal credit cards at 0% interest for them to scale to the next level. And look, that sounds crazy, I know. And that's why I quit. Although, technically speaking, we were helping out a lot of people, using personal credit cards, changes your FICO and leaves you stuck after a year. And so after I quit because I didn't agree with what we were doing, I founded a company called Gotcha in the Florida Mall, where now we're over like 6, 7 different locations. Either way, our biggest breakthrough in this arcade that we started up was when I spent countless hours and probably thousands of dollars investing in what I like to call the American banking system. I took a lot of time away from the business to learn how to secure the funding because we need to get those plushies, the little cat in the middle of the screen, without using our own cash. We were making a lot of money, but obviously using the money and reinvesting it back into these plushies were seriously hurting us. And so once I learned how to secure over 300 grand of 0% interest, we were then able to scale our business, to that $2.5 million a year mark, and finally get to the point that we really wanted to be at without having to use our own cash. And so once I learned how to do that and, did it for the business, a lot of partners, friends, business owners that I knew at the mall came to me and asked me to help them and guide them through the process one on one, help them secure that 50 to 300 grand at 0% interest as well. That's when I founded Matrix Mastery Group. And, that's the only thing I do now, where at this point I've helped over 150 customers, all business owners and companies, do one thing and one thing only, which is get 0% interest business funding directly from the banks. And so you might be wondering, well, why 0% interest business funding? Is this even real? I'll answer all of that for you. But first, let's break down the options that you have. First of all, you have your personal savings, right? But I like to call this, your war chest. And once your war chest goes to zero, game's over. The war's lost. And so I really don't like touching my personal checking account or my business checking account. And I like to do every single thing that the business requires using other people's money. And so, obviously, if you want to continue using your personal savings, I don't even know why you're here, but it's an option. Personal loans. Personal loans are okay. I would say their interest rates are fair, a little bit higher than usual. The biggest problem, though, with personal loans is that once you get one and now it's showing up on your credit profile, you're not going to get any more money. And so, let me explain. Imagine I came to you and I asked you for $50,000 for my business. You're going to be like, okay, show me your resume. And I'm going to show you my resume. And it's going to show that I just borrowed $50,000 from somebody else. Are you going to be more willing or less willing to give me money? Exactly. So personal loans have their own place. In the case that, a business owner needs as much money as possible, I tell them to get it at the end, where once they got all the business credit, the lines and the loans, then they can get a personal loan to kind of top off the funding and capital raising sequence. Number 3, organic growth. That's what held me back during my time at the arcade, because we were, earning money and then using that money to put back into our inventory. And so there was nothing to take, meaning, although we had a $2.5 million a year company, it didn't feel like it. And so I'm not the biggest fan. Obviously, if you're less risk averse, cool. But at the same time, no one is telling you to go and leverage yourself to the brink. But yeah, organic growth is cool. Obviously, if your business has higher margins, you might not need this. But if you aren't, then this tool is very, very great. Number 4, having an equity partner. So imagine Shark Tank. Obviously, if you're bringing on a partner for also their growth and advisory portion of kind of that function, then great, all power to you. But if you're bringing on a partner just for capital, not only are you restricting yourself because now you have to answer essentially to these shareholders, but also you're diluting your vision because you have other people in your game. And so I don't prefer it. If you're going to get a partner just for the money, why not just get a partner and then get business funding for both of you so you guys can, both use other people's money, which is pretty great. Business loans. Business loans, great, cool. Lower interest rates if you know what you're doing. Oftentimes requires a lot of documents. So perfect for business owners that are, actual business owners that have revenue and have documents. But for people who are just starting out or don't have the documents just yet, pretty much an untouchable product. For existing business owners, though, we definitely, look into business loans during the sequence so that you can secure both the lines and the loans. And finally, the 0% interest business credit cards. Why business credit? Well, first thing, the limits that you can get approved for are much, much higher than on your personal. And so this is shown because, we have a specific banker that if you follow the specific play, you can get up to $75,000, 0% interest on one line. And actually, funnily enough, you can continue, as long as you pay it off within that year, continue having 75 and then potentially 125 and then $149,000 year after year at 0% interest just on one line, right? It's repeatable. This process, once you learn and understand the system, it's not a one-time thing. You can think about it as equipping yourself with the knowledge and the skills to actually traverse and navigate yourself within this American banking system so that you can secure money at the snap of your fingers. And finally, you may think that, like these lines, like I can't use it for this and that and this. There's programs and softwares like Melio, as well as liquidation partners that allow you to use these lines just like cash. And so this is a very, very, very flexible tool you can use to grow your business. So you might be thinking at this point, if you haven't left already, business credit, credit, what is all this? Well, first of all, business credit lines don't affect the personal. You can have it completely maxed out and your FICO score stays exactly the same. Why that's important? Well, if you borrow the money, you built the business, and you have the cash flow, after year one, you can get an SBA loan. You can get a different loan and consolidate everything you have on a much longer time frame. But this really gets you off the ground as a new business owner. And you're only able to do that because your personal score stays so high, because it doesn't affect your personal file once again. Second, credit is expensive. Well, definitely cheaper than MCAs for those existing business owners. But, if we really utilize a 0% introductory period, then it's free money. Who doesn't like free money? And three, it's too confusing. I agree. It's a little confusing, but that's why I'm here to help you and guide you step by step through this process. Why is equipping yourself with the American banking system so pivotal? Well, first of all, getting the tools, the team, and the systems much, much faster. And partly, anticipating that growth instead of playing catch up. What I mean by that is when I first started Matrix Mastery, I invested $26,000 into a marketing program. They not only set up my ads, but the back end systems and the setting process and all of that. That's probably one of the main reasons I'm here talking with you today. Being able to invest into your business, me at the time, $26,000, I could have done it with my own cash, but I used 0% interest business credit, didn't pay a single dime of interest, and made that money back in a month and a half. So you can pull off plays like this where, because you're investing in your business and you're business owners and not consumers, we're using debt to generate more revenue, right? It's a play, it's a risk. Everything's a risk, but you're investing in that future revenue, which is great, right? And this allows us to not use our hard earned cash. Again, once your war chest goes to zero, you lose the war. Protect your capital by using other people's money. 4, you can control when the money is flowing in and out of your checking account. Why this is important? Well, if you're a service-based business owner and you're taking on jobs where you're fronting the labor, the cost, the material, and you're not getting paid for 60, 90, 120 days, well, now you get to do it without having the money leave your checking account. Yeah, you can control when you pay that debt off. And so this gives you that ability to not only scale more aggressively, but also understand exactly what's out and what's in, which is pretty cool. Number 5, and this is pretty important, right? Once, let's just say I borrowed $50,000 from you and then I paid you back and then I asked you for more money. Well, would you give me more money or less money than the guy who comes to you the first time around with no history? Exactly. So once you go through this process and you borrow money from these entities, it becomes much, much easier to borrow more money at better rates, at better terms, bigger amounts. And, the only way you build business credit is by borrowing money and paying it back, not those, dinky little trade lines that you can get from Quill and Uline. That is a completely unnecessary process if you're going through that right now. Number 6, business owners that go through this program add 1 to 4% back to their bottom line through cash back and points that you get when you use the cards and lines to spend on your expenses. And so one of the craziest things that this has allowed me to do is travel just around 30 times in the last year without ever having to spend money. That's a lie. Maybe spent $40 on like some flight redemptions, but essentially I've traveled all across the United States for conventions and networking stuff, as well as out of the country to reset my mind and try to decompress and realign my goals and missions. It allowed me to go to different places without ever having to use my own cash. My business really just does pay for my travels, which is really cool. And finally, leveraging other people's money. I really think, I mean, if you look at Uber, right, they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars and they've recently turned profitable this year. Think about that. Yeah. The goal of business, although, I've only been in business for 4 years, I feel like is to borrow as much money as possible for the longest period of time so that you can use that time and money to then turn a profit and then use that cash flow to do whatever you want with, you know. And so, without further ado, if you were to join this program, this is what it would look like. First of all, we would spend a little bit of time to prepare your credit profile, your business profile, as well as a couple of relationships that we need. We know exactly what the underwriters are looking for. At this point, I've done tens of thousands of credit applications. I understand the approvals process. I've talked to bankers about what they're looking for. And so we spend, anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks preparing your application so that we have, and we know that you're going to get approved. Once we do that, we connect you with these different institutions in a very, very specific order. It's a kind of three buckets here. One, online applications, which are pretty cool with different data points. Two, relationship managers at these top banks. Some of these relationship managers can even get you 100 grand without any documents. I know that sounds crazy, but I guess if you're in California or if you have a business of 2+ years and your credit profile is strong, you'll meet these people. As well as there's in-person banks that, we're leaving 25, 50, 75, sometimes even $200,000 on the table if you don't go in person. And so I'll teach you how to go in person and walk you through that process as well. Once we kind of go through that first funding sequence and you've secured that 50 to 300,000 at 0%, and an additional 50 to even 2 million if you have the revenue, we then stop and clean your profile. My goal is to leave you with the cleaner credit profile than you actually initially come to us. And so that might require scrubbing inquiries, maybe some late payments, etc. But we make sure, you leave this car wash cleaner than you found us. So without further ado, at this point, if you're like, hey, what did this guy know? He seems pretty young. Well, thanks. But, we've been doing this for a while. I talk to this computer, this webcam every single day, every single freaking day, which I'm glad, right? I get to help people like you secure the funding for their business. But sometimes, maybe I wish I get out a little bit often. But anyways, I want to go over 3 specific clients that I loved working with so that you can also understand if this program might fit for you. So first, Stephanie. Stephanie came to us without an LLC, but with an idea that she wanted to get into the Airbnb industry. And so, within the 45 days, she not only created her business entity so that it was fundable, but she also secured $86,800 at 0% interest on her business, completely brand new LLC. So this was really exciting for her. Now she has multiple properties and she's scaling, looking to get funded for the next round. And I guess most importantly here, as you can see, it says 24/3 personal. We also got her one personal line. Didn't, at the time, was completely free of charge. That personal line is going to then allow her to start pulling business lines at 20, 30,000 in the future. And so she got over 100 grand, I guess, in total funding. Completely new business for Airbnbs. Secondly, Dylan. I love working with Dylan. He was such a cool guy. The guy was doing $2.5 million in a business that he had acquired just around a year ago. He had 3 business entities. This amount of funding was acquired using essentially an aged corporation. He had a corporation with no operating activity, but of 2+ years that we used to pull that $245,000 at 0% interest. The reason why we did it with the non-operating entity was that he was looking to use this money for the earnest money in his next business acquisition. And so what I mean was his plan was to acquire like a $6 million business using an SBA loan. And so he wanted the seller to hold 5% of the earnest money. And so he only needed to bring about 5% of that money privately. And so he did that by funding a non operating entity, pulling that money, and then using it as an earnest money to then successfully go through a leveraged buyout of this existing company. And so this is really cool because, this business was over 2 years of age, but had no revenue, yet he was still able to get 245,000 at 0% interest. And so Brian Clapper, great client, 10 years in business, over 2 million in revenue. He could have secured around 700 to 800 grand, but after the $360,000 mark, he was like, you know what, this is plenty. Like, this is all I need. I said, cool, okay. And he's using this money to take on more projects. He has an engineering firm where he fronts the cost of labor, materials, permitting, whatever else comes with his deals. And so he now puts all of that on his newly acquired lines and loans so that he can keep more cash in his pocket and take on more projects without having to break the bank. So you might be wondering, if you got this far, where you are within kind of the tiers of this program. We have 3 tiers, and let me just go over it very, very briefly. The first tier, credit restoration, we don't offer it, we don't run ads for it, but we have thousands of conversations with business owners like you every single day, and a lot of the time, they have certain negative remarks that stops them from moving forward in this process optimally. And so we'll take some time to repair your credit. If you need to repair your credit, we can pretty much get rid of anything. And I mean, like, literally anything. So I guess ask your advisor, what that does look like. Number 2, tier 2, essentially our bread and butter, stacking the business credit cards and credit lines at 0% interest. You can see the qualifications below. But essentially, as long as your credit is above 700 and you don't really need tax returns or pay stubs, it's preferred, but you don't need it. And as long as you have an LLC, you can pretty much get at least $50,000 at 0% interest. And tier 3, if you actually have a business and have the documents and have revenue, that's where it gets really fun, because now we can only stack, normally we can only stack the business credit cards, but for you, we can stack both the business credit cards, lines, and loans, so that we can make up that 2 million potentially if you have the revenue of outside capital that your business needs. And so if you are a business owner and or you have a business idea, and the only thing that's stopping you to get to the next level is capital, and capital that won't kill you, like MCA or business loans with high interest, then use the qualification form below and go through that process, and we'll see if you pre-qualify for our program. And if you do, you'll get the opportunity to jump on a call with me or one of my advisors, and we'll come up with a strategic game plan on how to secure this funding so that your business can get to the next level and you can turn your dreams into reality. And so if it makes sense for us to work together, I look forward to speaking with you. And I guess thanks so much for your time and interest. But yeah.